Okay, we're live here. Tuesdays with Terry. Tonight's guest is Paul Baltrun, Director of the Housing Assistance Division of Krasker Law. Let me just give you a little background on Paul. The Homeowners Assistance Division is solely dedicated to mortgage and real estate legal issues and solutions. Paul has been doing this for, 27 years of mortgage and real estate experience. So Paul, I'm just going to let you give a little background here and pretty much tell us what does the Housing Assistance Division of Krasker Law do, and how do you help folks?
Sure. Well, first, thank you for having me tonight. Pleasure to be on your show, and hopefully we can provide good information tonight for your viewers, and maybe help some people out as well. So, my background, I have about 27 years experience in mortgage-related businesses. In 2008, obviously the last crisis we had, Paul Krasker and myself started the Homeowner Assistance Division at the law office of Paul Krasker because we found homeowners needing good information, reliable information, unbiased information to help with their particular situation. We're probably going to run into the same type of situation here the rest of this year and next year as we did in 2009 and 2010, whereas homeowners were faced with problems and they weren't quite sure what to do, and they weren't quite sure who to believe or what to believe when they were researching on the internet and talking to other people. So we started it, and basically we have every possible solution for a homeowner in the division. We have every service a homeowner could possibly want, and we've built that out over the last 12 years so that we could truly provide an unbiased opinion to a homeowner to help with their particular situation. So we have a bankruptcy division, we have a short sale division, we have a modification division, we have a debt negotiation division, we have a student loan division, and of course we have fantastic attorneys to handle all litigation matters and foreclosure, legal cases, and any other legal cases that come about.
The forbearance period has ended for most lenders, and people are now getting phone calls from their lender or letters saying that the forbearance period has ended, and many of these people didn't request forbearance. The bank solicited them and asked them if they would be interested in some type of forbearance, and that they left them with the impression that these payments would be added on to the end of the note. And I know that people are getting phone calls now, and lenders are saying, well, on second thought, we're not going to be able to do that. And so your forbearance amount comes to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and we need to have that money now. And that scares people. What should they do?
Well, first and foremost, try to work out the forbearance agreement with the lender. And if they're not having success, our office provides free consultation to homeowners on their particular situation, and we can take a look at what's going on. We can get a copy of their payment history. We can look at any type of documentation that was provided from the lender to give advice on their particular situation. And I offer that up because there can be so many different kinds of scenarios. We've been watching forbearance for the last 10 months, trying to get a sense of what the lenders are doing for our clients, on our clients' behalf, but also to try to obviously have a sense of what was going on in the marketplace, and to know how we may be able to help people in the future. And we're seeing some very unfortunate situations, just like what you said, Terry, where the bank is coming back and saying, we can't put all of the payments on the back of the loan, or they're trying to modify the loan, and the lender is saying, we can't modify the loan. For any homeowner who's not familiar with what a modification is basically when the lender takes your existing balance and creates new terms for the loan to kind of give you a fresh start. So you get a new payment based on the new balance at a certain interest rate, and you start making the new payment and you have a nice fresh start. So a modification is a very common tool for lenders and for homeowners who are behind on their mortgage or are in a forbearance and owe multiple payments. So those would be, that's how I would start. Work with your lender. If that doesn't work, give us a call. We can give you some advice, because there's going to be homeowners that are going to be very confused, and they're not going to know what to do. It's going to be their first time going through it, and it's going to be a very frustrating and scary situation.
Well, I know that most people have been dealing with their lender. The lender approached them about the forbearance. They did the forbearance, and they believe that the lender is trying to help them out, that the lender is on their side. But from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, that doesn't seem to be the case. You take, for instance, somebody who's been making payments on their house on time for 15, 20 years. They're at the point now where they're actually that money's going towards principal. They're paying that note down, and they accepted forbearance because a lot of people not necessarily lost their jobs, but they couldn't go to work for so many months. So they're faced with the possibility of losing their house when they've been making payments for all these times and for all these years on time, and the bank is suggesting a foreclosure or a short sale.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about if you're in forbearance or you're trying to get a forbearance, you're not being successful. Let's talk about what to expect. So if the lender won't grant you a forbearance or a modification, they're going to ask you to pay a certain number of payments to bring your loan current. Maybe they'll put you on a payment plan to do that, but the payment's going to be extremely high because it will be a short-term payment plan for those past due payments. So if that's the case, you have to be really careful, because there's a 120-day rule with lenders. And the 120-day rule is that once the homeowner is 120 days past due on their mortgage, the mortgage lender is allowed to start the foreclosure process. So that's the magic number, 120 days past due. If you're not 120 days past due, the lender cannot start the foreclosure process. They're going to threaten you with foreclosure, but they can't start it. The problem is with the forbearance, most people are going to owe at least 4 payments, which is 120 days past due. So what I expect to happen is if the lender won't grant a forbearance or a modification, the borrower is going to be at least 120 days past due. I think the lender is going to start the foreclosure process. So what happens from there? The lender will outsource the file to a Florida law firm that specializes in lender foreclosures. And that attorney will file the foreclosure in the designated county courthouse. and then the homeowner will be served their foreclosure papers. If any homeowner is served their foreclosure papers, they need to pick up the phone and they need to call us immediately. And we don't have time really to get into the whys of the timing of that and why it's so important. But basically, you have 20 days to respond and to dispute the foreclosure once you're served. So that's a very critical period. If you haven't been served, you can still give us a call and we can still take a look at your situation to look at all the different possible solutions. So if we could, Terry, can we take a couple minutes to kind of bullet point the different solutions that a homeowner may have if they can't get a forbearance?
Absolutely. Let me ask you one question before
Sure.
we do that. When you say they've been served with a foreclosure notice, do you mean somebody actually coming to the house and serving them papers? Or is it just a letter saying, we're gonna foreclose?
So it's somebody knocking at your door
Gotcha.
and attempting service of process. Now, when you're 120 days past due, the lender is required you to mail you a notice of the 120 days and that foreclosure process has started. That's regular mail. And that's just making the homeowner aware of the process that's starting. The serving of the papers, that is the true legal start of the foreclosure. And it's a lawsuit that's been filed in the county.
That's is that a lis pendens? Is that what that's called?
Correct.
Okay, let's go through some of the bullet points here.
Sure. So the first thing that I always sort of like our bread and butter of helping a homeowner is a two-pronged approach. It's both on the legal side and then on the negotiation side. So what we like to do is first be the attorney for the homeowner and represent that homeowner and legally challenge the foreclosure. And are we going to be able to win a case in court against a lender's attorney? No, it's very difficult when a homeowner signed a note, a promise to pay. It's very difficult to win a case when the homeowner has signed a promise to repay the loan. But what we try to do is we try to create leverage with the lender to work on a negotiation. We try to make the lender aware that, listen, it is not going to be an easy task to foreclose on this property. We are going to fight it on behalf of our owner, on behalf of our client. And what we would really like to do is try to negotiate a resolution. So while we are legally challenging the foreclosure, we have another staff member that's negotiating with the lender some type of resolution, whether it be a modification, whether it be a payment plan, something to bring the homeowner current and allow us to have the foreclosure dismissed. So that's our bread and butter.
Okay.
The second thing is we can always look at a sale of the property and it really depends on the homeowner's what their goal is. And that's always the first question that we ask a homeowner: what is your goal? Most people that come to us say they want to keep the home. So if they want to keep the home, trying to get a modification or a payment workout plan while we are fighting the legal case, like I said, is our bread and butter. We can also take a look at Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which allows you to make payments on whatever is past due on the mortgage. So let's say you're past due $10,000 on the mortgage. We can file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which will put you on a payment plan basically for that $10,000 while you're continuing to make your normal mortgage payment. And by filing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, as long as you're making the payments to the bankruptcy trustee, the lender cannot foreclose.
So they're forced to work with you at that time.
Yep. Yep. It's bankruptcy protection. You are protected from your creditors. Again, as long as you're making the monthly payments to the trustee. So those are two very, very good solutions if you want to keep your home and you're in foreclosure. If you don't want to keep your home and you're okay with selling the property, then you have a couple of different options. If you have equity in the property, obviously just doing a straight sale of the property is an excellent solution to try to capitalize on the equity that you have in the property. Our office can help facilitate that. Our office can work with the lender on getting an accurate payoff. And then our office can make sure that the foreclosure is dismissed after the property is sold. If the homeowner is underwater, meaning that they don't have equity, we can negotiate a short sale on the property. Very, very common. We've done a ton of them, and that's a very, very nice solution for a homeowner. And what we always tell someone who's underwater on a mortgage, don't let the property go to foreclosure. A lot of homeowners will say, just throw their hands up and say, I'm underwater. There's no sense fighting this. I'm not going to pay legal fees to an attorney. I'm just going to let it go. And that's the worst thing that you can do, because it's a huge hit on your credit. You're not going to be able to get financing for a long period of time. And if we can negotiate a short sale, why not? You avoid the foreclosure on your credit. Your credit isn't as damaged, and you exit. You exit from this situation a whole lot better than if you were just to let the property go to foreclosure. So those are probably the most common solutions.
Now, you mentioned, stigmas to your credit, like foreclosure, but and then you talked about bankruptcy earlier. If you really want to stay in your home and you decide to go the Chapter 13 route, what type of effect is that going to have on your credit?
It's a significant hit on your credit. Yeah, I mean, it's a significant hit, but if you think about it, if you're already in foreclosure, your credit is getting hammered. What carries the greatest weight on your credit is your mortgage loan. And if you think about it, what's going to have more weight on your credit, a $3,000 credit card or a $300,000 mortgage loan? So when you're in foreclosure, you're 180 days behind. You are significantly behind. So your credit is already severely damaged. So yes, bankruptcy is the worst thing that you can do from a credit standpoint. However, if you want to keep your home, your credit's already damaged. For the right person and in the right situation, it's the way to go.
It seems to me that that maybe some of these lenders have violated this Truth in Lending Act. I mean, a lot of people that have taken the forbearances, they've always made their house payments on time. They had good credit. They got solicited by the bank to do forbearance. Nobody was working at the time. There weren't even any cars out on the street. Everybody was staying home. People were having their groceries delivered to their house, and now they're faced with foreclosure. Do you think the federal government's going to step in and help any of these people, or are they just going to be left on their own to battle the foreclosure?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be similar to 2008, where you're going to have, you already have, the forbearance programs and the modification programs. Those are coming at the direction of the federal government. And, this is all COVID-19 related. And you may see through the rest of the year, you may see a COVID-19 type of workout solution. I will share with you that a good source of mine has told me that there may be another program for Florida homeowners similar to the hardest hit fund, which came about as a result of the '08 crisis. And what the hardest hit fund was for a homeowner who needed payment assistance. And it made their mortgage payment for 1 year and helped to bring the mortgage current. It was a federal program, and federal government sent $1 billion to the state of Florida. Our office was actually an approved contractor for the hardest hit fund. We were one of only 2 law firms in the whole state of Florida that actually had a whole hardest hit department in our firm. So when somebody would call in for assistance, we were literally the team that was handling the first level approval in our office. So it was fantastic. We controlled the file and the result. So I reached out to my contact from the last contract that we had, and about 4 months ago, she said we're probably going to expect something in 2022. I've been reading up lately, and I think they're working on something right now. I think each state has the opportunity to apply to the Treasury to be a part of that program and receive a certain amount of funding. So my guess is that's going to happen, but that's not going to happen till 2022, most likely.
Yeah, it's going to be too late for a lot of people.
Sure.
You know, it seems like you were talking earlier, that the government has kind of mandated to these banks to allow forbearance and modifications, but I don't think the lenders have done this in good faith.
Sure. There's one other last program I'd like to talk about, and it's something that we're seeing a couple different companies offer, and it's something that we're starting to offer through our law firm. And it's for a homeowner who wants to stay in the property. They don't want to file bankruptcy. They can't get a modification. Maybe they don't have any income coming in right now, which, by the way, in order to get a modification, you have to have income coming in. In order to get a modification, you have to prove to the lender that you're going to be able to make the payments. Why is the lender going to approve a modification if you can't make the payments? So if you can't show affordability for a modification, there's a program that's called Sell and Stay. So you sell your property to this investor company, and it's these are very credible companies, national type companies with major financial backing. You sell your property at market value to the company, and you stay and you rent at market rent. And there's a couple different programs. Depending on the program, you have the option to either buy the house back at some point, or the option to resell it at any time in the future. So let's say you sold the house. Let's say your house is worth $400,000. They're going to pay appraised value for it. They're not going to try to discount the price or anything like that. So let's say your house is worth $400,000. They're going to pay you $400,000. At closing, you don't get the full $400,000. You get about 80% of it at closing. So you would get $320,000 at closing, and the remaining 20% is called your equity option. And let's say for you're staying there. You're just paying monthly rent to the investor. You have the money in your pocket from the closing. And let's say 3 years down the road, you exercise your equity right and you want to actually sell the property at that point of time. and let's say you can sell it for 450. The home sells for 450. You get your remaining equity back, that $80,000 that you didn't get at closing the first time, plus any extra that you make as a result of the value going up. So it's a wonderful, wonderful solution. I've been working on the product for the past 3 years, and it's for someone who's got a lot of equity, which is really paper money, and it's a way to make that paper money liquid. And we've come across so many homeowners who have no money in the bank, but $300,000 of equity in their home. It's a shame. So it's a way to make that liquid. It's a way for a homeowner to stay in the property, either short-term or long-term.
Yeah, I think one of the differences between now and the Great Recession is that people have equity in their houses now, but
Yeah.
some people can't get the equity out of their house now because, like you say, you have to show income. They might have been making the payments, but as the situation stands now, they can't refinance and get that equity out of their house.
Yeah, and this program has no credit requirement, no debt to income requirement like on a mortgage refinance. So I think it's a wonderful solution. And with our office, what we do is we represent the homeowner. We review the contracts. We make sure everything looks legitimate. We help facilitate the closing. And that gives our clients some peace of mind of, what happens in the throughout the transaction, and then the end result of the transaction.
Well, that's a kind of an out of the box a solution to this problem. Let me look at the time here, and yeah, we're just about at 7:30 here. First of all, I want to thank you for being on with us tonight. I think you shared a lot of good information. I learned a lot, but I'd also like to say we know everybody's situation is different. So, I think that in my mind, the first thing people should do is give you guys a call. I mean, it's a free consultation. We have the number here. We have the number on the screen here, and I'll post that on Facebook. So as people view it later on, they'll be able to see that number. And what I always say, especially with first-time home buyers, it all starts with a conversation. And you can't get anywhere until you talk to someone. And I think that's crucial here. But I think the point that we could leave everybody with is maybe something hopeful that if they haven't received that court document, that knock at the door, there still might be hope for them to save their house.
Absolutely.
Paul, I appreciate it, and hopefully down the line we can do this again as more information comes available. I encourage everybody to give the Krasker Law Firm a call, the Homeowners Assistance Division. There's a lot of things they do there, and have a great rest of your night, Paul. Thanks.
Thank you. And they can ask for me, Paul Baltrun. I'm happy to talk directly with them. Thank you, Terry.
Sounds good. We'll be talking to you in a couple of days.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.